Hello and welcome to another glorious read. I am your host, Aspen M. Sage. Let's get into it. Happy Saturday, everybody. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. I am. I know I had a bountiful breakfast, so it's a good start with a nice glass of orange juice to start the day. Of course, you can't forget the coffee. Everybody needs coffee, tea, some type of pep. Mine is coffee. So this week's review is going to actually be something I didn't think I was going to enjoy because it was so popular. I did listen to the audiobook, The Court of Thorns and Roses. Now, I'm not big into following a lot of the most popular books. I like the Harry Potter series, but I wasn't a big follower of the Harry Potter series. And same with the Twilight. I've seen the movies, but never really cared for the books. I did like Aragon, and I liked watching Lord of the Rings, but it wasn't, again, something I really followed. I didn't really get big reading into them when I was a child. So when Court of Thorns and Roses became popular, I was like, yep, that's cool. I rather follow more smaller artists or authors, ones who are kind of in the shadow of the light, but still have amazing stories that I want to share with you guys. I know that are some of the authors that I do read are popular, but they're not overbearingly popular. You don't hear a lot of them. So I do enjoy reading their books a lot, especially the Shifter series. I do like my dark romance. But like I said, I listened to The Court of Thorns and Roses, and I actually found that I do enjoy it. It's not how I thought it would be narrated. I thought the story would be written a little differently. It definitely was recorded differently than I expected. I thought it would be a lot of character chapters where it'd state the character's name, like most of the books I read, and then their point of view. However, that is not how the book was written. It was all written in the point of view of Feyre. Obviously, Feyre is the main female character in the books. I will say that I most admire her in the book because she understood life struggles. She understood the things she needed to do to survive and help her family survive. So it kind of took me for a loop that it was just a single person book, or at least single train of thought. When she's definitely talking to herself, it's quite funny because I'm like, yes, I understand that completely, especially where she's like, that was stupid. That was really stupid of me. But it is a actually really nice book, and now I understand why people enjoy it so much. Of course, I personally see why people would be falling for the main male characters in the first book. But I have to say that one of the side characters, he's just a comedian kind of guy, even though he's got the most torrid past. And that's Lucian. Lucian is of one of the High Lord Fays, he's a consort or an advisor of that said High Lord of the Spring Court. What is Tamlin? Tamlin is definitely the guy that everybody loves because he's just so, I guess, in the word, there is the only thing I can think of because of the whole golden hair, the mysterious mask, and how he's so powerful. Oh, he's so great. I'm sitting there going, you got issues. Now, I am for the whole male character having issues, background trauma, blah, blah, blah. But there was something about Tamlin that sits there and goes, no, you have different motives. The whole thought I had for my reading or listening to this book, because I can't say I read it, I listened to it, was you can almost see the alternative motives that Tamlin has. But Lucian seems to be very he knows what he's talking about. There is no hidden vibe for him. He literally tells Feyre that he's ew, I don't like you. You stupid girl, you stupid human. And I love it how he always says cauldron boil me. For some reason, that just gets me every time. And I'm just I'm just going to start going around yelling that too. But no, it's very good how it's written. So obviously Feyre, she comes from a non-wealthy family anymore. Things have gone downhill for her and her sisters and her father. So she hunts. She's hunting this doe, and a wolf appears, and she's not sure if it's a fairy, if it's a wolf. Regardless, she kills it, skins it, takes the deer meat too, and comes back home, where she obviously says to her family, here's some food for a while. I'm going to take the pelts in the morning to the shop to sell them. And of course, what I like about Feyre is she might be like hardened, but she's also very like creative. So she does paint. You hear her referring to her paintings a lot, and how she actually sees life in different colors. So she kind of like describes how she sees things in the scenes and stuff. So the author did a really good job how she describes how Feyre sees different colors, how she's like, I would love to paint that. If I can remember the colors and see if I can get the right palette, I would love to paint this. And she does do that through the book too. Obviously they go and sell the furs. She meets a mercenary. They're talking about how the wall was basically a layer of magic between the two worlds, between the fairies or the fae and her humankind. The humans have the south, the fae have the north. Obviously things go down when one whole big fae monster knocks down the door, and it ends up being Tamlin, and he takes Feyre away and takes her back to the court of Thorns, or basically the Spring Court. During this whole thing, Feyre doesn't know he's a High Lord. Lucian's there. He's orange-haired, fox mask, golden eye, because he's like missing. So I kind of had like this whole like cyborg thing going on in my head. I'm like, no, he's not. It's just a golden eye, like a glass eye would be. But of course it moves, and it's a whole magic thing. And he's just so funny because he's just like, this weak human killed our friend, this little scrawny thing, really. And the kind of funny thing is, like, in my head, I'm like, this seems set up. Like, this doesn't seem right. Obviously, Feyre grows close to these two. There's different celebrations. He tells her that her family's taken care of, and she's like, starts to try to figure out a way to give back. She runs into other fairies that aren't so kind. And of course, Lucian helps. And yeah, poor Feyre. She doesn't know what quite to do with herself. She's like, this is a totally different world than what I'm used to. And of course, she's learning that the faes, especially the high faes, are not exactly what legends tell them to be. So she's trying to figure out the world that she now fell into and cannot leave. Of course, like I said, Tamlin's trying his hardest to win her favor. There's different celebrations. There's like a summer solstice kind of thing, spring solstice. And there's different celebrations. She runs into Curse Riesling. Everybody loves the dark, scary Night Lord there. And of course, he comes back into the story. Tamlin and Feyre certainly grow a lot closer, where they do become intimate in sorts of ways. Now, spice level in this book, I do not count it as very high. There is spice, but it's not descriptive. That's my issue a little bit. I kind of thought it would be more. I really did. Now, I'm not saying that future in the series it's not going to be. It's just not now. So the spice level would definitely be like a 2 in this book. Woohoo, they had a couple of rounds together, but not like whole description of what's going on. It was more like what they're feeling inside their like mental capacity, not like what their actual bodies are feeling. So I also guess there was confusion a little bit for me, is they were talking about a mysterious woman, and she does come into play, Amarantha, and she's supposed to be like this, the best way I could think of her is this whole high priestess, sorceress, fae woman, who has a very big grudge, apparently. And Riesling, or Reese, is basically her whore. But there's no, like, in the book of her sleeping with him because she is obsessed with Tamlin. And of course, Tamlin sends Feyre away back to her family, finds out her family is well taken care of. Even if Lucian said that fairies can lie. Who told you they couldn't lie? And she just looks at Tamlin and he's like, what I said was true, as, like, he does the whole eye roll, like, I'm guilty of not always speaking the truth, but he was telling the truth that he did take care of her family when they left, and he glamored their minds. So she comes back, finds her whole family is well taken care of, except for one sister, Nesta, who's apparently understands that she was taken by a fairy, or the High Lord. She lived in the other realm, and she says apparently an iron will cannot be masked by a fae's glamour. And Feyre is, like, taken back by this and actually worried that, Nesta actually came to try to look for her and hired the mercenary that she was talking to and sold the pelts to get Feyre back. Because Nesta kept saying it wasn't right. Nesta is definitely one of those cold side characters you're not sure if you want to like or not. Like, she's definitely the big sister that tried to save her youngest sister, but at the same time, you're like, I can't like you. So even there was a part where Nesta literally looks at Feyre as she's going to leave back to Tamlin because she feels that something is wrong and says, you leave and you never come back. Like, she's like, I am happy to get rid of you, is what it sounded like. But at the same time, it was like, your home's not here. You belong somewhere else. So Feyre does go back and try to find Tamlin and everybody, but she finds that they're gone. Except for her old stewardess or maid, Alice. She was the only one that remained. So they said that they're all under the mountain. They were taken by Amaranda, and so Feyre's like, all right, let's go. I'm going to go save these guys. Of course, she gets caught. She gets caught by one of the little henchmen, one of the dark fairy people. And unfortunately, it's a really creepy description, but the author does a really good description of all of her characters, especially the surreal, when she's talking about the different little fae, or the brownies, or anything like that. So she does a really good job describing her characters, even if they're just a small little passing, like, blank, like the bog. So they, anyway, Feyre goes into the mountain. She gets captured. She is brought for Amaranda, who's sitting there with, like, an eye on her finger that's looking around, a necklace that has a human finger that's all bone, and of course Tamlin's sitting beside her. She finds out that backtrack a little bit, when Rhysand came into Tamlin's home and was found Feyre again, that he found at the solstice party, she gives him a fake name, and she's just like, it's not anything important. Well, back forward to with her under the mountain, she finds that the woman that she gave the name about is dead, tortured, blah, blah, blah. Amaranda's like, oh, like, no wonder why Tamlin didn't, respond to me torturing this young thing. And, no wonder. And then she, like, calls Rhysand, and she's like, you said this was her. And he's like, all humans look the same, like, he's not bothered by it. And she goes, what about Faye? And he's like, yeah, that too. He goes, you all look the same to me. So he's very unbothered, very nonchalant. The Feyre's captured with 3 tasks. She makes the deal with Amaranda that if she completes these 3 tasks, she has to let the Spring Court go. And of course, Amaranda throws in fists, says, here's a riddle for you. If you complete the riddle, I'll release everybody immediately. And of course, she gives the riddle. And this is where me, as an author, I'm listening to the riddle and I go, I would not be a very good character. Like, I'd ruin the whole story, because as soon as she said the end of the riddle, I'm like, I know the answer. Feyre, however, is illiterate. She does not understand. And she's like, yeah, I'd rather just do your challenges. Of course, there's people among Amaranth's court who do help Feyre. There's Lucian. Lucian tries to help her heal, and of course he gets the crap beat out of him. He's also thrown into a few of her challenges. The first challenge that she faces is against a giant worm that she ends up beating. And of course, Amarantha's like, hey, I had a lot of people bet on you, And she's listening. She goes, a lot of people said that you died in the first minute. And these people said you last 5. And she goes, huh. Only one person ever thought you'd survive. And she calls Riesling, and Rieslin's like, yes, I make money. And Feyre's like, I hate you so much. He does show up, and he heals her bones, and he makes a deal with her saying that basically once a week she has to be with him. And she doesn't want to make the deal, but she feels like it's the best way to heal because she thinks she's dying. Of course, Riesling takes up the deal, and he's very happy about it because he's like, I get to ruffle Tamlin's vein, And of course, there's a second challenge. The second challenge is her reading the words on a wall, and there's 3 levers she has to choose why this roof comes down and crushes her with like the spikes and shit. Of course, poor Lucian gets sucked into this. He's chained into the middle floor, and she's trying to read the wall, and she's like, I have to pick one of these levers. 2 will crush us, 1 will save us. And of course, Lucian's yelling at her, just saying, read it. And of course, he realizes that she can't read it, and he goes, just pick one. And she's panicking. She goes, 2. 2 is a good number. She goes, 2 is just me and Tamlin. And she goes, 1 is lonely. 3 is the crowd. She's like, 2. And her hand starts buzzing. And the hand that Riesling has marked. And she's like, huh. And so she goes to another lever, and she feels the pain again. And she goes, well, that's not it. And then she goes to another lever, and it doesn't do anything. So she goes back, and she feels the pain. So she goes back to the lever that's no pain and pulls. And of course, she wins the challenge. And now she's starting to realize Riesling has other motives. And he does. He's tired of being part of Amarantha's kind of thing. Like, he was just a deal. Like, he had no part of actually being there. And you could tell deep down he's like a good guy. He's just unbothered by everything. He's got a really good poker face. Is how I listen to the book. He's just a really good poker face. And he's constantly like cleaning off fake lint and rubbing his hands and like dusting himself off. And part of me goes, it's the idea of maybe he feels like dirty, doing Amarantha's dirty work. Like, he has no choice in it because he has to save his court of the night court. So obviously there's a third challenge, and the third challenge is Feyre has to kill 3 fairies, and one of those fairies happens to be Tamlin. And everybody's like, oh no, like, and of course Tamlin's just staring at her, and she's like, she couldn't do it. She didn't want to do it in the first place. And then she remembers that throughout the whole beginning of the book, they kept telling her secrets. And now she realizes that she can do it and he won't die. So she does stab Tamlin. Of course, Amarantha's like, wow, you passed all 3 of my challenges, but it doesn't mean I'm going to let them go right away. And Feyre's like, but you said, this whole banter back and forth. And Amarantha's like, oh, but I didn't say, She's like, I didn't tell you when I would. I might do it after you die, And like, she starts torturing Feyre. Of course, Tamlin's terrified because he can't help her. Lucian can't help her. And then, of course, Riesling, starts attacking. And he's worried about Feyre because Feyre's dying, basically. And then Feyre became aware of the riddle's answer. And she goes, it's love. And Amarantha's like, what? She goes, the answer to your riddle is love. And of course, her spell's broken. Everybody is released. Tamlin basically tears Amarantha apart. Riesling heals, but the problem is Feyre is so damaged that she has died. So a little tearjerker there that she's basically died, but yet she's not, because she can see everything that's going on through Rhysand's eyes because of the bond. So all the High Lords get together and they give her like a light. So the author did a really good, beautiful job of making her be able to see the out-of-body experience through somebody else and give her back the life. Feyre does become High Fae. So she goes obviously home with Tamlin. But when she's sleeping with Tamlin, she, well, they're still underneath the mountain at this point, but she feels a call. She knows it's Rhysand. She goes to see him, and she's like, what are you going to do now? You going to fly home? And he's like, she goes, I didn't know you missed your wings. And he goes, yeah, it's not something I'm proud of, but yeah, he goes, I miss my wings. And he goes, how does it feel to be other now? And she's like, honestly, confusing. And I love how the author did it, because she goes, I feel different. My body feels different, but she goes, my heart doesn't. She goes, my heart still feels like it's human. And Rhysand basically looks at her and says, good, keep it that way. And she just looks at him confused. And she and him kind of feel like this little sparky thing going on. And he disappears before she can ask him about it. Obviously, Tamlin and her go home back to the Spring Court, and everybody's happy to be free of Amaranda. And the author kind of leaves the story there. So, obviously, all the other books I haven't got to them yet. It's a really good story. The world building is there. The characters are there. The way the character thinks is there. I love every bit of the story itself. I just wish there was more spice. But the way Feyre is as a little brat kind of thing, but yet she is that embodiment of human, but she understands she could be more. She's like, I might be human, but I can do this, you know? So it's definitely a really good book. I give it a full 5 stars. Now I understand why people like it so much. I definitely want to finish these books. I'm maybe more determined now, because this is why I did the audio, is to try it out. Now I might actually buy the books themselves to have and read when I want. But while I am waiting for my second book, I am reading another Lexi Frost book. I like Lexi Frost's writing. I'm doing Carnage Island, and so far it's good. It's good. I like it. But that is it for this week. So that is Court and Thorns and Roses. I know there's a lot of people that have already read it. If you haven't, I definitely recommend it. I know everybody's not big into the whole Fae thing. I wouldn't call it basically anything close to Harry Potter or Twilight. I know there's some people that say that it is. I'm like, no, it is not even close. This whole world building is so different. I like how it's done. This is definitely a new level of why this book is popular, or this series, correction, because they are a bunch of books. I just haven't read them yet. But thank you for listening in, and I hope everybody has a fantastic day. Go do something fun. Go do something adventurous. Go see that friend you haven't seen in a while. Go visit some family. Maybe buy yourself something nice. And thank you for listening in to another glorious read, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.